The Paul Finebaum Show. And now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul's named after an apostle. I am as well, too. I am Peter Burns of the SEC Network. Booger and Burns filling in for Paul Finebaum over the next couple of days. Booger McFarland, my partner in crime, over here. We're having some fun. We're just renting the place for a couple of days. Left a good deposit. It'll be fine. We're not going to tear down the walls too much. We've been talking about the DeAndre Johnson issue. We've been talking about some college football player trades and getting your phone calls in. But right now, we can bring some true talent to the Paul Finebaum Show. We're joined by a man who's in his 7th year coaching the Mississippi State Bulldogs down in Stark Vegas, Coach Dan Mullen. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Well, I got a bone to pick with you, Coach, and I figured I was going to save this to the end of the interview, but I figured I'll just start with it now. So if we don't go any further than this, I apologize in advance, okay?
Yeah?
Your wife has cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. So the story is I go out to Stark Vegas for the spring practice and got a chance and your wife Megan is she's literally like, it's not just the team mom of the school of the Bulldogs, Coach. She's like the team mom of Starkville. It's incredible how she could run for mayor in that town. She knew everybody by name, and she comes up and says, "Hey, it's great to see you guys. SEC Network's here." And I say, well, I'm getting married in September. I need to go thinking about this is where I'm going to go out for my honeymoon. She's like, well, Dan and I went to this one place in the Caribbean that was incredible. And so she showed me pictures and stuff like that. Soon enough, I get home from my trip. I show my fiance the picture. She made us cancel everything, and now we're going to the spot that Megan Mullen, your wife, has done. So I don't know how necessarily you pay me back on this. We'll work with Bill Martin over there and do that.
She likes nice locations, some people go on camping trips. I don't even think she would go glamping right there. It's got to be a little bit nicer. When we go away on vacations, we like nice spots, and that have beautiful views. But unfortunately, those places aren't real cheap usually. So we just had our 10th wedding anniversary, and we went back to where we went for our honeymoon in Santorini, Greece, and so it cost me some money this summer as well to go over.
Were you able to get money out of the banks over there, Coach?
Yeah, you know what? I think we were in and out of there before it all seemed to collapse. But you know what? When you're on the islands, when you're in those Greek islands, I don't think they're feeling much of the same pinch everybody else in the country is feeling with the prices we had to pay at all the resorts there.
Coach, I would love to keep talking about honeymoons and resorts, but I'm going to ask a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about some football here. You lose Dylan Day, and Josh Robinson is no longer there, and obviously everybody's saying, where's the production from the run game going to come from? How would you answer that?
Well, for us, I think 4 out of the last 5 years we've had to replace a starting tailback, and every guy that we've replaced has been a 1,000-yard rusher. From Vic Ballard to Ladarius Perkins to Josh Robinson. So I can't tell you who's going to be the guy. We got some really good candidates. With Ashton Shumpert, Brandon Holloway are older guys, and Eris Williams and Tavian Lee, the younger guys, and even we'll see the freshmen when training camp starts. But we're always going to be committed to running the ball, and we have a pretty good stable of running backs. So I feel fine with that. The offensive line is going to be critical. Jamal Claiborne is really worked to try to become the starting center for us. And we'll see how that competition, with some other guys maybe shakes out during training camp. But we have a lot of young linemen. I know we graduated a lot of experience, with 3 seniors on the O-line graduating last year. But I also think the fact that we have a quarterback back, we have a lot of wide receivers back, and that threat of the ability to throw the football is certainly going to take some of the pressure off the running game and allow us to run the ball more effectively.
Coach Dan Mullen joining us on the Paul Finebaum Show. Coach, how much does the movement in the pocket and what Dak's able to mask a little bit of that inexperience there on the offensive line for next year?
Well, I think, it's not just his movement, it's his experience back there, his ability to get the ball out of his hands quickly and, and make quick decisions and make good quick decisions with the ball. Certainly takes pressure off of him. I think, one of the things you look at is, D-line and constantly I'm preaching it when I'm with our defense is run of the football. All of a sudden that ball's snapped, it's out of the quarterback's hands quickly. The D-line is sprinting across the field to where the ball was. We're going to get up on the ball, snap it quick again. And all of a sudden you start wearing and checking on their physical condition of running sideline to sideline with a quarterback that can manage the game and get the ball out of his hands. I think we'll take some of the pressure off of them in those type of situations and hopefully trying to wear down some defensive lines.
Coach, with Preston Smith gone and Bernard McKinney gone, how much pressure or how much do you need Chris Jones to kind of step up and fulfill that potential that he's flashed and shown us so many times?
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal for us, with him. I know people look at it and they say, boy, look at all the different starters that we've lost, and we've lost a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the ball. But the amazing one of it is, we have 14 guys returning that have started games in their careers. So, I don't, when you look at returning, the starters, so, I know it says, when you look at a lot of places, like, boy, we don't have many returning starters. Right. We have 14 guys that have started games coming back. And we have a lot of guys that have played significantly. When you look at guys that, Richie Brown, who was an SEC Player of the Week last year, a Chris Jones, who gets all kinds of accolades. Neither of them have ever been a starter before. And, but get those accolades. So I think when you lose those guys, a guy like Chris Jones, now that he is going to be a starter, he needs to go play at an extremely high level of football for us. But we know he has that potential. He's made big plays in the past and done a lot of things for us. And even though I guess that's one of the things you look at on our defense and say, wow, they got a lot of guys that haven't. That aren't returning starters or that are starters that were lost, but because we play so many guys on defense, we have a lot of experience coming back.
SEC Media Days right around the corner. That's why everybody's back from vacation, and it's kind of the official start of when football season kicks off here in this great conference. And, Coach, how do you guys decide which three players you guys are going to put up on the podium and bring out to Birmingham?
Boy, it's always different. Originally, my original rule was I wanted to bring juniors, guys that are going to be upcoming juniors, to media days because, a lot of seniors already get a lot of exposure, and it's great experience to get kind of these young upcoming guys that are going into their junior year to get that experience and get that in front of all the media and all the pressure that it has. But I think, I've had to throw that out the window because, I think everybody would freak out if Dak Prescott didn't go this year. And for us, and
us at the SEC Network, we would freak out a little bit if we had a chance to speak with more Dak.
Yeah, I guess that's a good problem for us to have because now we do have I don't know star players, but recognizable players that people want at all of these events, and so we just kind of look at guys that represent our program in a very strong way, and what our program's all about. And that are representing who we are as a program, and that's how we select. I think we have Ryan Brown, Tevez Calhoun, and Dak Prescott coming, which are guys that are probably our most experienced starters. 2 out of the 3 have already graduated, and Ryan Brown's an academic scholar throughout his career. So they're guys that really represent what our program stands for.
So is Media Day kind of the beginning for you, or is that something you say, okay, we go to Media Day, we come back, we get a little bit more downtime, and then we lock in? How do you view this time of year as far as when you, as a coach, get ready to get kind of fired up for the season?
Well, Media Day, our staff reports, I think I have Media Day next Tuesday, and our staff, we have our first staff meeting of the new year, I guess it is, at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning. So Media Day is kind of a wake-up call for me that it's time to get out of the summer family time mode and get back to work. And it certainly does it with all the hype, all the attention, everything that's going on there. It does wake you up of what's around the corner and time to get going, time to get back to work and get ready for the season.
What's the biggest change been since the run of the 5 weeks at number one and showing that this school in Stark Vegas can compete for a national championship?
Well, I think it's really twofold. One, I think the expectations within our program have changed. You know, I mean, it was always a fight to say that let's be a team that can go compete for championships. But I think now that we got to number one, stayed there for a couple weeks, ended up a couple minutes short against Alabama of winning the SEC West, and on the road. But I think that really showed our guys here we can compete, we can expect have the opportunity to go win championships here, and so it really did change. I think the standard of what our guys work for now. You know, I mean, they're hungry to get back to that and get back on top and get back to being number one and want to have the opportunity to finish number one. I think it's also changed the perception outside our program, though, a lot. Of we've talked about since I've been here, we're going to build a championship program. We're going to win a championship here at Mississippi State. I don't know when, but we will. It might be this year for us. And I think when I used to say that, I think a lot of people around the country would kind of chuckle and laugh and say that's great coach speak. But I think the type of season we had last year, I think people now look and say, hey, we're a program that's going to have the opportunity to do that. And that's pretty – I like that. I like having that type of program.
Coach, Jeff Collins left, went to Florida, bring back Manny Diaz. Two-part question here. Kind of talk about that time when Jeff left and you're bringing in Manny, and just what does Manny bring that maybe Jeff didn't do for your defense last year?
Well, I think that, one of the things, I don't freak out that much. I mean, I guess, with Jeff leaving, all it did was eliminate any type of Christmas vacation I had or holiday I had because, what I did is just work with the defense in bowl prep. And then when I gave the coaches a couple days off over Christmas, I had to spend all my time here in the office preparing, make sure the offense was ready for the game as well. But I think one of the things we've had some defensive coordinators come and go, and some guys get different opportunities to move on. I think what it's shown within our program, we're always going to play really good defense here at Mississippi State, and that's a philosophy. I don't know that it's really a coordinator. It's our program. It's the defense that we're going to run, the style of defense we're going to run. It hasn't changed since I got here. And, so I think the great thing having Manny Diaz come in is he knows what my expectations on the defensive side of the ball are. I think he's a tremendous schematic coach. And, brings an awful lot to the scheme, understanding the defense, understanding how to cause problems, how to attack offenses and get them out of their comfort zone, which is something that's really, really important to me. And it's great having a guy like Manny that knows what the expectations within the program are and what my expectations of a head coach of what I want our defense to be like. Very much as our offensive coaches, we've had a lot of continuity on offense. They understand what my expectations of what I want our offense to look like. And I think when you have a coaching staff and everybody understands and is on the same page with what the expectations of the head coach and what our vision of our program is, you have an opportunity to be successful. There's no chance for anybody not to be on the right path, on the same page, and putting the team on the field that plays the way we need them to play.
Coach, quickly, last question for you. Where do you expect these SEC media guys, Paul Finebaum included, where do you think that they'll vote you in the SEC West this upcoming year?
No, I don't know. They're probably last. I think they vote us last every year. They voted us last year, and then we did okay. So I assume they probably, I don't know. My goal is this, and like all the polls, all the preseason stuff, I think that's great. If you're not going to be voted first, you might as well be voted last. Because first gives you motivation to stay there. Last gives you motivation to prove everybody wrong. Everywhere in between is just kind of like, like ho-hum, whatever. You're average. So if they're not going to vote us first, hopefully they vote us last so our guys get motivated and get kind of pissed that they voted us down so low.
It worked out well last year, and ask Mizzou, who's been ranked dead last in the East the last couple of years. So we'd like to see it. Coach Dan Muller, we appreciate the time, and tell Megan, we'll try to take some nice photos when we get
I want to see the photos right there. I will say this: you will enjoy your time there. It's going to be a pretty special stay.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it, Coach. I'm looking forward to seeing the Bulldogs down in Starkville this year. All right?
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. There's Coach Dan Mullen, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, 7th year, and we'll see what the SEC media types go ahead and vote him with SEC Media Days coming up. Boy, we just downshift in talent as we're going to be joined with Greg McElroy of the SEC Network coming up next on the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns and Booger McFarland in for Paul.
Individuals.
One more chance. Well, actually, they'll give us a couple more chances. Peter Burns, Booger McFarland. Booger and Burns filling in for the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Finebaum, for the next couple of days. We were just joined by head coach of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Dan Mullen, who, Booger, I thought that was a great quote from him, saying that, hey, if they don't vote us first, meaning SEC West rankings at SEC Media Days, I hope they vote us last because it gives our guys a little bit of motivation.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, if you're voted second, isn't it like first loser? So, I mean, I get it.
That worked out well for him, and, of course, it's worked out well for Missouri in the last couple of years. And, all right, joining us right now on the Paul Finebaum Show is, like I said, we got a downshift in the talent level, so we got to head down to Mr. Greg McElroy of the SEC Network, former national champion, radio show host himself, and our partner in crime on the weekends. G-Mac, what's going on, man? I saw that you had your rankings of college football teams in your top 40 on your show earlier today.
Absolutely, Burns. I have my rankings of college football teams, and I noticed on your Twitter you had your ranking of top 5 golf courses you've ever played. So my mind's on business, your mind's on pleasure. I like where this is going, though. We'll mix in the middle and meet right at Booger McFarland, who is all business, all pleasure, all the time.
All the time, baby. I appreciate that. You were working on that one, too. Hey, we're talking about it. We're getting geared up. SEC Media Days. You said you were ranking them because you're getting ready. What's your biggest question that you want answered when the coaches take the podium in Birmingham?
I think whether or not the teams are going to find that motivation that they found going into last season. I mean, when we look at who these teams were over the course of a 12-game regular season schedule, and then we saw a lot of these teams, particularly from the SEC West, really not play well in the bowl season. That's my biggest question mark. Are these kids and are these coaches really hungry and willing to put last year behind them and learn from the mistakes made in December and January bowl games? Now, granted, sure, there were several good performances. Texas A&M had a great performance. Missouri had a great performance. But there were a number of performances that were very disappointing, most notably Mississippi State. You were just talking about Dan Mullen. Have the kids moved on? Have they used that game against Georgia Tech as motivation throughout the off-season, summer, and as they head into fall camp?
Greg, let's say they are motivated. Let's say kind of all teams come in with that mentality, hey, we're going to have an opportunity to compete for an SEC East or West title. When you look at this landscape of the SEC, who do you think right now is the most talented team on paper in this conference?
The most talented team on paper is Alabama. Based on the way they've recruited, all you have to do is look at the fact that they have the number 1 ranked recruiting class last 5 years. So Alabama is the most deep, probably the deepest, probably the most athletic, but they also might have the most question marks offensively. So from a talent standpoint, Alabama is the most talented. But as far as having the questions answered, sure, there's talent there, but there's very little experience on the offensive side of the football. So whether or not they're capable of replacing some of the stars lost, and the toughest star to replace is Amari Cooper. He only finished 3rd in the Heisman vote and was the Blitnikoff Award winner. So if they're able to replace him, and they won't be able to do it with just one person, but if they can replace him with a cast and a group of athletic playmakers on the outside, then I don't expect the passing game to fall off that much, considering what Blake Sims was somewhat limited in doing as far as throwing the ball down the field last year, especially early on in the season.
How frustrating is that for Saban to know that you've got Lane Kiffin, who's, I still believe, is offensive genius, play calling, to not be able to have that marquee guy at quarterback, that Greg McElroy type guy, but just a guy that they feel unbelievably secure in going into the season? How frustrating is that for Saban?
they don't need a marquee guy. I mean, I'm an example of that. AJ was an example of that. They need a guy that's going to throw single-digit interceptions and hopefully less than 5 interceptions. Last year, Blake Sims threw 10. And really, in the Auburn game and the Ohio State game, he had threw 6 altogether. So really not good performances toward the latter part of the season for Blake Sims as far as limiting interceptions. He just needs a guy that's going to be able to get them in and out of the correct running play, elevate the play of the people around him and that are also in the huddle, and be a leader. And that's really, I think, what Nick Saban said all along is what he wants from that quarterback position. So I think that they have a couple of very worthy candidates, probably more talented candidates than they've had in years past as far as just sheer arm talent, how the ball comes out of the person's hands. But I need to see Jay Coker play a little faster, and I need to see David Cornwell play with the same type of confidence I saw throughout the practices, not necessarily the type of confidence I saw from him during the 8A game.
You know, sticking with the quarterback theme, for me personally, I think that Joshua Dobbs is the best dual-threat quarterback in our conference as far as a guy who can drop back and maybe be that pocket passer. I think I may lean either toward Brandon Allen or maybe even Kyle Allen. For your money, G-Mac, who's the best dual-threat quarterback in the conference, and who's the best pocket passer in this conference?
Well, I think there was a guy that finished in the top 10 of the Heisman vote last year that might have something to say about that, and his name's Dak Prescott. I think he's the best dual-threat quarterback in the conference. As far as best passing quarterback dropping back, the best arm talent that I've seen is probably Josh Johnson over at Jeremy Johnson, excuse me. Josh Johnson's on my mind. I apologize. Jeremy Johnson at Auburn has the best arm talent that I've seen. Watching that game against Arkansas, there were small windows. He was able to manipulate defenders, but he can really throw it. But I think that there's also a sample size we're working with that we are still a lot of question marks there. Now, as far as upside and what I've seen from him, even watching in some of the games later in the season, when he got extended playing time, he was anticipating throws, even though they were blowouts, even though they were against competition that wasn't necessarily up to the point that he's going to be seeing week in and week out. He was making throws that I never saw from Nick Marshall. Not one time did I see him make those type of throws with the type of anticipation that Jeremy Johnson had, throw in and throw out, just about every time he had a chance. Now, he did make a couple mistakes, and if you watch the Arkansas game, really the second part of the second quarter, really from the 6-minute on down to the final, right before he finished up in his first half of work, he didn't play great. So I think that there were some adjustments made defensively that made him a little bit more uneasy. And that's going to be the question mark, whether or not he's able to maintain that level of play against top-quality competition for 60 minutes in a game over the course of a regular 12-game season. And that's going to be a real question mark. But I think he has the arm talent that's as good as anybody that we've seen in this conference up to this point.
And when you look at Jeremy Johnson, because a lot of people, including you just now, said he has the best arm talent as far as throwing the football in this conference, do you think he can live up to that? Because Auburn is putting a lot on his plate, because I think they're going to revamp the entire offense around him and become more of a passing team with him and Duke Williams throwing the football.
Well, that remains to be seen. I think he'll be able to manage it from a talent standpoint. He has great weapons at his disposal. Have we ever seen a Gus Malzahn offense that couldn't run the ball effectively? I know they missed Cameron Artis-Payne, but Javon Robinson's coming in. Rock Thomas came in as a 5-star talent a year ago. They're going to be able to run the ball, so they're going to be balanced offensively. It's just whether or not he's able to consistently make the decisions and anticipate the throws based on the disguises that defenses are giving him. That's really the only question mark. I think he'll definitely live up to expectations. I think he has he'll be in the running at the end of the season for all SEC accolades without question, based strictly on what I've seen. But it is a different animal, Booger, and you've played a million snaps. You're an old man, really, really old man. And you've played a long time, both in college and in the league. And you understand how difficult it is to maintain that level of focus over the course of a 60-minute game and week in and week out over a regular season going against the top defensive coordinators in the country is a difficult task. So that's going to be the question I have for him. But from a talent standpoint, he's off the charts.
Greg McElroy joining us right now on the Paul Finebaum Show. Greg, who wins the East, who wins the West?
I think right now you have to look at Georgia out of the East. I think they have the least amount of question marks. Their offensive line's outstanding. They have the best player in the conference, Nick Chubb. Very good defensively. Front four have a couple questions on. Will they be able, really front three because they're mostly basing out of a 3-4, but do they have enough depth? They have a couple quality freshmen that are coming in that I think we're all a little bit excited to see what they're capable of. Great at the linebacker spot. Secondary's pretty good. I think they have the fewest question marks, and I think they're ready to get over the hump. Obviously, the quarterback, biggest concern without question. And out of the West, I think the winner of the Iron Bowl, just like it has the last several years, is going to be the team that does carry the banner for the West going into the SEC championship. And really, if I look at Mississippi State, it's really by process of elimination. Mississippi State, will they be up to the level they were last year? Ole Miss right now, there's question marks with the most important player on their offensive line, which is where they're thin to begin with, in Laramie Tunsil. You look at LSU, do they have the quarterback play to be able to maintain? You look at Texas A&M, are they ready defensively to take the next step? And then you look at Arkansas, and please look at their schedule, because it is extremely challenging. So there's a lot of question marks all around. And I think, obviously, Alabama and Auburn are the safe picks out of the West. The winner of the Iron Bowl will decide it once again.
It's going to be an unbelievable season. We're going to get locked and loaded. You'll get more from Greg McElroy from SEC Media Days in a couple of days. You're probably already packed. You're one of these guys that probably packs for a vacation or a work trip like 4 days early, right?
I packed 4 days ago. And I'm going to be sending you all the pictures of our suit-tie combination because I can't be matching you, man. You'll make me look bad.
Hey,
I don't have a chance to look as good as Booger. I understand that. I've mailed that in. I knew that's not going to happen.
None of us have that opportunity. Greg, hey, looking forward to seeing your old man ties next week in Alabama, all right?
Always fun, fellas.
There it is, Greg McElroy joining us here on the Paul Finebaum Show. It is Booger and Burns filling in. I'm Peter Burns from the SEC Network. He is Booger McFarland. Going to get a little bit more conversations, more of your phone calls as well. Coming up next, 855-242-PAUL. Peter Burns, Booger McFarland, in for Paul.
This is a...
Welcome back to the Paul Finebaum Show. It is Booger and Burns filling in for the sexy man, Paul Finebaum. I'm sure he's been called that many times. Peter Burns, SEC Network, Booger McFarland. I did see the big swagoo, our boy Marcus Spears. He was getting set up for some new suits, man. Everybody's going to be rocking the new gear. It's like the first day of school, SEC Media Days. Like everyone's all the clothes they got off a layaway, new ties. They're going to be looking good. You get a new haircut, Booger? It'll be nice.
Yeah, I mean, my new haircut is very similar to my old one.
Hey, when did you start shaving the head? When? Because I'm trying to get Paul. I don't know if we can get Paul to do the full shave, the Yul Brynner look, the Mr. Clean look, which would be awesome. But when did you start doing the full shave?
Some guys can't pull the full shave off. I think you have to have a very masculine face to pull it off, and I started doing it probably about a couple of years ago, man. I just got tired of going to the barbershop, to be honest with you, so I just decided to shave it off and kind of go with plus it makes me look about 10 years younger. Like, I can pass for 25.
Oh, you can't. There is no way you're passing for 25.
Are you serious?
There is no way. I guarantee you right now, instead more people would ask you, Booger, if you wanted your free coffee from McDonald's than you get carded for alcohol.
First of all, I don't drink. And if you buy coffee from McDonald's, I mean, what is it, senior citizen get coffee free?
Right.
Yeah, I've never gotten coffee from McDonald's, but seriously though, like I honestly think I could pass for a guy who's at the very, like, if I clean it, like really, really clean and put on a nice
baby's
suit,
butt clean.
Baby's butt clean, trim up the eyebrows, the whole nine. I could pass for 30, dude.
Oh, you see America? It went from 25 to 30 real quick.
I'm just being a realistic guy.
Hey, we're going to get more to your phone calls here at 855-242-PAUL. Lance in Jasper, you've been waiting patiently. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Hey, Booger, did I hear you say that it kind of sounded like you were making an excuse for football players because they've been raised up in football from 8 to 18, and that gives them a reason to hit my little girl, man, 'cause that don't make sense to me. I don't care if you're getting raised up aggressive or aggressive. That don't give you no right or any excuse to hit a girl. And for somebody to say something like that, it's pathetic in my mind. And I got a lot of respect for you. Maybe I misunderstood what you said.
First of all, Lance, I completely agree with you, and that's not what I was saying. What I'm trying to do is open the lines of communication. See, I believe in understanding every situation. So let's understand how some of these athletes get to this position. I'm not making any excuses. I'm trying to learn from them. That way we can prevent these situations from happening again.
Hey, if you got to learn right now what's going on, I mean, it starts at home, man. You got to have parents, all right? Any kid out here hitting girls ain't got the right kind of parents. You know what happened, man, if I hit a parent? If I hit a girl, I couldn't even go in front of my dad again. You know what he'd do to me? All right, enough said right there. But let's talk about some defense right here, because I know you're great at that. I mean, I agree with you on SEC. Even with Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer were winning national championships, it was our defense that won them. They took Ohio State and annihilated them, held them to 84 yards. Troy Smith is somewhere in Ohio bagging groceries for a living. We turned Oklahoma into Choklahoma. That was a high-scoring offense, college football history, I believe. Held them to 14 points. But I want to ask you about Florida's defense with a new coach coming in. Do you think Do you think Florida's trying to prove that it wasn't just a system and Will Muschamp that they can play on their own, or do you think the defense is going to fall out with a new coach coming in?
Well, here's the difference with Jeff Collins. Jeff Collins is a defensive coordinator. He's a bend but don't break guy. His defense was ranked very, very high. I think #1 in red zone defense last year at Mississippi State, but they were awful between the 20s. Now he comes to Florida, and he's probably got a top 5 secondary in college football led by Vernon Hargreaves III. So how is he going to mesh his style with the talent he has, I think is going to be key. Florida is very, very thin at linebacker. Bullard is a very, very good player up front. But this team is led by their secondary, which if you look at Mississippi State last year, that was probably the worst part of their team. So I'm waiting to see how can Collins mesh his style with the talent at Florida. That'll be the key for that defense.
Oh, you also look at the key of the offensive line, too. It was something I believe that they're going to lose over 4,000 snaps from that offensive line, which, hey, listen, it wasn't necessarily the greatest, so maybe some new blood might go ahead and help, but it's going to be some long days for Jim McElroy. All right, how about this? On the other side, Alabama, Wisconsin, Alabama, USC, Florida, Michigan, LSU, Miami. Those are all big college football games that are going to be played out in Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium. How those games are put together, we'll tell you how. From Chad Estis, Dallas Cowboys Executive VP Vice Business Operations. He'll join us next on the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns, Bug McFarland, fill in for Paul. Are you back to the Paul Finebaum Show on the Paul Finebaum Radio Network / World Syndicate. It is Peter Burns and Booger McFarland. Booger and Burns filling in for Mr. Finebaum. There's a big host. He needed 2 hosts to go ahead and fill in the shoes. We've been talking about some of the SEC rankings coming up with Media Days right around the corner. We had Coach Dan Mullen joining us earlier who said, quote, if they're not going to vote us first, I want them to vote us last. It worked well for us last year. We'll get a little bit more of that a little later in the program. Greg McElroy joined us talking about some of the different rankings coming up this season. But I think this is one of the more important things when you start looking at how the season starts. 2015, Alabama, Wisconsin. Next year, Alabama, USC. Florida, Michigan the year after. Some great games are going to be played out in Jerry World in the Cowboys Classic. So how that gets made is we are joined now on the Paul Finebaum Show by Chad Estis, Dallas Cowboys Executive VP of Business Operations. Chad, we appreciate the time today because we were talking about what a great slate of games it seems like over the last couple of years we've gotten. How do the conversations even begin on your side of the business table of which teams should we put on this docket?
Well, Peter, I'll say it to start, when the stadium was built and the vision of Jerry and the Jones family was to have these types of games. I mean, we are trying to fulfill that vision every day. And really, it starts with going after the biggest and best games that we can think up and seeing who's willing to play and participate. And it's no secret that we put out some pretty good guarantees in order to attract those teams as well. And so that's certainly a part of the equation. But, there's a regional element to it. The stadium sits in a great place for college football. And, we've had Texas, Oklahoma, TCU, and then getting over in the SEC, Alabama and LSU. And we've got a lot of Alabama coming and some more LSU and some Auburn. So there's a regional element to it, and then it's all about the right matchup, and then who's willing to take a big time game to start the season off.
It seems to me that there's been an SEC element to this game just about every year. Is that something that you guys purposely talk about and say, okay, we want to pit the SEC maybe against the rest of the country, or does it just happen to fall that way?
It's not as much let's pit the SEC against the rest of the country. These games for us, one of the big drivers for them is to have great crowds and an incredible atmosphere at the stadium. And it's no secret that the SEC helps deliver that. And, I'll just go back to what we've had in the past. I mean, LSU, Oregon, that was an incredible matchup. They were both highly ranked. And then Alabama, Michigan came in the next year. One of the things we love is these games occur before anybody loses a game. So if you recall, in that year, Michigan was a top 10 team in 2012 before they tailed off. So that had a lot of hype and build up. And then we followed that with LSU, TCU when they were both in the top 10. So we've had there's been a little bit of a lucky streak. We booked these games pretty far in advance before we know exactly how rankings will shake out. It's safe to say that I do a little rooting for these teams in the years prior to the game, and didn't hurt to see Harbaugh go up to Michigan as I stare down that Florida-Michigan game we have coming up. So we just try and find the best matchups, and the SEC sells tickets, fans travel, atmosphere is incredible. It's just all part of it.
2016 will be Alabama, USC. Of course, Alabama opens up against Wisconsin this season. Then Florida, Michigan in 2017. 2018's got LSU in Miami. And in 2019, the Oregon Ducks will take on the Auburn Tigers. Has it gotten to the point, Chad, where teams will no longer field the phone calls, but actually make the phone calls to you guys and say, hey, we want one of those slots to start the season?
I'm not going to go that far to say the phone is ringing off the hook. I think we've gotten into a rhythm, I hope, that with schools like Alabama and LSU that we have some general understanding that every few years they'd like to play in the Classic. And so I do think there's a rhythm to that. But there's still negotiations, and it still has to be the right matchup in the right year. And I've mentioned a few elements to why this has worked, and let's not forget the other one. I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time talking about it on your show, but the hotbed of recruiting that occurs in Texas and in the DFW area, and having these teams come in and play a high-profile game in AT&T Stadium in the Avocare Classic right here in DFW with all those high school kids staring it down, I think is something that all the coaches see as part of their puzzle as well.
And it's one of the ones that we can't wait as college football fans to do. He's Chad Estis, Dallas Cowboys Executive VP of Business Operations. Chad, great insight on how the schedule gets made. We appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be on the show.
All right, coming up next on the Paul Finebaum Show, we'll break down a little bit more of how about SEC and college football player trades. Some intriguing ones coming up next on the Paul Finebaum Show.
Hi, I'm
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.